Listen, thank you. What a wonderful turnout to see everybody here. My family's here with me the first time in a month or so. Obviously, many dear friends, many of our servicemen and women who have served in years past are presently serving. We have a very handsome young Marine right behind us. Say hi. There's 17 days left, folks. 17 days, thank God. Let me just tell you something. The one thing that I've noticed, and I know for a fact there are good Democrats in here right now, and I know there's good independents and good Republicans in here right now. And the one thing we all have in common right now, is we're Americans first. First, and we have some very real challenges here. We have some very real problems. We have a $16 trillion national debt, 4 years of trillion-dollar deficits. We're borrowing 42 cents in every dollar. And there's an attack happening, folks. Let me tell you, especially our seniors, those who have Medicare or are about to get Medicare. Listen, there was a promise made when you paid into Medicare, a promise. A sacred promise that you would have your Medicare. Well, let me tell you something. As a result of Obamacare, they are going to take, and listen, she can try to, do the old political bougie-woogie and think it's not happening. We're going to take 716 billion of your Medicare dollars and give it to Obamacare to pay for an entire separate program. If you seniors who are either about to get it or getting it now think that is not going to affect your care and coverages, then you're being misled. I want you to know that I, Senator McCain, and every other senator I know are going to fight to protect that sacred promise that we have with you. That's something my opponent wants to make sure happens. She wants to cut $716 billion from your Medicare, and I'm not going to let it happen. For a fact that there are business leaders in here, and by the way, you did build it on your own, okay? And there is also an attack in your pocketbooks and wallets. They want to take, she wants to take in particular, $3.4 trillion of your money and give it to the federal government. At a time right now where they're like pigs at a trough and they want more and more and more. And you know what? I love this. I love this job. I really do. You know why? Because when I hear that Scott Brown, he voted against 3 jobs bills. No, I didn't. I voted against 3 tax bills. And we're going to take federal government that is not a good steward of your money. You know what they want? They want basically for you to say, hey, listen, I'm a United States Senator or a Congressman, and we're only $16 trillion in debt. Please just give us $16 trillion, and we'll never, ever, 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 ever get into debt again. Okay, so please just help us this one time. Right. Please. You didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. Come on, you know. That's why we need a balanced budget amendment. Come on. We are here right now with somebody that I'm going to share a story. Some of you may have heard this before, and I love doing this story because it's the only time I can really needle him and he has nothing to say. So let me just say, aside from my marriage to Gail, you've heard me say this, and the birth of my 2 lovely daughters, being your senator has been the greatest honor I've ever had in my life. For this position, I was running, I was only down 41 points. I thought it was tied. I thought it was tied and I was going to win overwhelmingly. So I went down to Washington to try to get some support. And when I walked in, they didn't even have my picture on the computer. They had this like, where's Waldo type of picture with a big question mark and no picture. So, okay, this is how it's going to be. Great. So I called Gail and I said, honey, they don't even have my picture on the website. I'm still even running. And she said, it's okay, honey, I still love you. And then the next day I knocked on senators' doors to try to get them to support my candidacy. And I went, knock, knock, no one's home, knock, knock, no one's home. Finally, I got into Senator McCain's office, and I think it's only because I said that I was in the military, and they, out of respect, John obviously was a national hero, my hero, and so he, yeah. He gave me one of his books, he signed it, which I was deeply moved by, and we sat down and talked for a good half an hour. We talked about his service, about his experiences, his role as a leader in the United States Senate, and we're talking about what I had done in the state Senate and my small role as a serviceman, and after it was all over, he looked me right in the eye and said, you know what? You are a wonderful young man. You have incredible legislative service. You're a good family man. You have some great military service. You don't have a chance. I looked him right in the eye and said, sir, with all due respect, with your help, I'm going to win this thing. And he was the first man. Only person to endorse me in the United States Senate, and I'll tell you what, it was great, and I'm honored. Listen, I consider him a national treasure and a living American hero. Somebody, when I have questions about what's happening in Libya or Afghanistan, Pakistan, wherever the hotspots may be, that I can actually pick up the phone on my cell phone and say, John, I have some questions. I need some guidance. I want to make sure I'm thinking this through properly. I have all the information. Is there anything you can help or give me as guidance? Listen, I don't know it all, but I have a lot of good teachers, and John is one of them. So without any further ado, please welcome National Hero, Senator Brown.
Thank you very much. Isn't he something? Isn't he something? We need to keep honesty, integrity, service, three beautiful daughters, Gail, Ayla, and Arianna. It's been a great honor and pleasure for me to have the opportunity of serving with this fine member of the Massachusetts National Guard. For 32 years he served in that capacity. He understands the challenges that our guardsmen and their families face. He understands the long weeks and months of deployment that they undergo. He served his active duty in Kabul, Afghanistan. He is one of two members of the United States Senate. The other is Lindsey Graham, who is in the Air Force Reserve Colonel, and Scott Brown. I was honored to be in Washington at his promotion ceremony to Colonel. And I remember very well when he came to my office, I said, yeah, a senator, Republican senator from Massachusetts. The guy must be a masochist. But what we had was what was known as the Massachusetts Miracle. Now, my friends, we've got to send the Massachusetts Miracle back one more time. I'd just like to discuss a couple issues but before I do with you, I'd like to thank Scott for not mentioning that I lost in 2008.
We lost.
After I lost, I slept like a baby.
We're allowed to win!
Sarah, don't interrupt me again. I slept like a baby. Sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. Sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. We were just in a wonderful Irish pub when he came here, and so I have to repeat you. You know, you can't tell any ethnic jokes in American politics except Irish jokes. Now, why that should be, someone will have to explain to me someday. But here's the story. Two guys down at the pub we just came from, one down either end here. And one finally gets up, walks down the other end of the bar and sits down next to the guy and says, where are you from? He says, I'm from Ireland. He says, really? He says, I'm from Ireland too. Let me buy you a drink. He says, no, let me buy you a drink. So we're back and forth. He says, where are you from in Ireland? He says, I'm from Dublin. He says, well, let me buy you a drink. I'm from Dublin too. We buy each other drinks back and forth. He says, where'd you go to high school? He says, I went to St. Mary's. He said, you couldn't have gone to St. Mary's. I went to St. Mary's. He said, well, let me buy you a drink. Well, that guy walks in the bar, sees all this commotion down at the end of the bar, and he says, the bartender, he says, what's going on down there? He said, oh, it's just the O'Reilly twins getting drunk again. I want to say that we have a problem now in Washington, D.C. as far as our veterans are concerned. We have a Veterans Administration that's not doing its job. I think you would agree, sir. Here's a Veteran Service Office from right here in Dedham. It now takes over 400 days for one of our veterans to get their claims through the Veterans Administration. 400 days. Scott Brown and I, both half of our work, the casework that our employees, our dedicated employees do, is trying to take care of veterans who have been tossed by the wayside, have not received the proper hearing, the compensation, everything from disability to, quite often, we have individuals who never got the medals that they had earned. One of the greatest experiences for both of us is when we get someone and get their medals that they earned many years ago. Sometimes our greatest generation. Speaking of our greatest generation, do we have any of our greatest generation here? If we do, I'd really like to thank them for. Over 400 days that it takes. My friends, I want to assure you that I have no confidence whatsoever that Scott Brown's opponent will have the slightest clue of what it's like for men and women to have served in the military. And we've got to shake up the Veterans Administration. We've got to change the way they do business. We've got to fix it so that our veterans are taken care of and receive the benefits that they earn. Scott Brown just mentioned that he votes. And he votes his conscience, and he votes how he thinks is best, what he thinks is best for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'll never forget, not too long after Scott had been in the Senate, we had one of these votes that's generally party line in the United States Senate. I noticed that Scott Brown voted with the Democrats. I went over to him and I said, Scott, why'd you do that? And he said, because I vote first and foremost for the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, not for my party. He is an independent spirit, and yes, he makes me mad from time to time. But the fact is, he votes his conscience, not the party line, and that's the kind of senator I believe